What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Gakis, and today we're going to be going over the 5 biggest features, the 5 things you need to know about the upcoming Renegades expansion for Destiny 2. So, if you're someone who's wondering, what's the deal with this expansion? What are the main things, for better or for worse, that it does differently than other Destiny expansions? Well, this is the video for you. And so, let's get started. Now, importantly, I was able to play the Renegades expansion early, and that's what you're seeing as the background gameplay. So thank you to Bungie for bringing me to the Renegades Capture Event and making this video possible. Alright, now as for the first feature, by the way, these are not necessarily in order of importance. However, I do think the first one is the least important and the last one is the most important, but I digress. The first feature is kind of the return of factions. So, in Renegades, you have 3 main competing criminal underworld factions. You have the Pikers, so the Fallen, as you can see right here. Then you have the Tharsis Reformation, aka the Vex, and then finally you have the Totality Division, aka the Cabal. And I'm going to be showcasing the 3 different vendors associated with these factions and some of the upgrades they offer. So, you're actually going to have to go out and pledge to one of these factions at a time. Then, going out and doing the activities in the world will level up the reputation of the faction you've pledged to. Now, leveling up their reputation is going to unlock various rewards. Again, you're going to be seeing those rewards in the background gameplay, including powerful Renegade abilities. These are things that you can call in almost like kill streaks, but not really, while doing those activities out in the world, and they're really powerful. I mean, that ATST, like Star Wars mech, that is so good, that is the Totality Division's upgrade. So if you want that, you have to pledge and then level up the Totality Division. Now, all of them, frankly, have powerful abilities. Like the Vex, there's a Vex one that puts down a shield that amplifies everyone inside. Super good as well. So don't think like one clearly has all the good abilities. But this all means that everyone is going to have a bit of a different experience playing Renegades. Depending on what faction you pledge to first, you're going to unlock things at different rates. You're going to have people that join your games that call in like a maxed out Vex shield, and you're going to be like, oh my goodness, that seems so good. You know, maybe I should have pledged to the Vex and all this stuff. Like, I think this faction system could lead to some cool differentiation between players, at least initially. In the future, when everyone has maxed out all 3 factions, not so much. But that's feature number 1. Now, that leads into feature number 2, which is the new activities, the Lawless Frontier. That is the main thing you're going to be playing with Renegades. So, depending on which faction you're pledged to, they are going to assign you certain bounties. Then you open up the directory and you go and try to do certain missions. Now, you can kind of do whatever missions you want, but obviously you're trying to pick the high priority ones that align with your faction to get better loot and better rep for your faction, etc. So when you're playing these activities, there's a few different kinds. For example, there's Bounty Hunt, where you're going and chasing after kind of one big boss, and this big boss is, you know, in the first location, you can damage him a bit, they're gonna move on, you know, fight some waves, you do an objective, then you kind of follow the boss to another area of the map, you keep going. Or there is, you know, Sabotage, there's another one I'm missing the name of, but essentially, you're going to have different objectives depending on which of these, you know, certain activities you have, whether it's Bounty Hunt or Sabotage, etc. And you are going to try to get these objectives done, obviously trying to avoid using up all your revive tokens, and then eventually you're going to extract. So there's actually a ship that comes for you, and the first person on the ship, as you can see, can use a turret to help the team finish up that final objective, help the team extract, which is kind of a cool feature. I mean, kind of a gimmick to be honest, but hey, I thought it was cool. Now, on top of that, the ad density is pretty high, and they're sending a ton of mini-bosses and yellow bars at you constantly, at least on the higher difficulties. And so that made certain objectives feel pretty intense, and there was good differentiation between the objectives we got to play. So one, you're just clearing waves, normal ad clear. Another one, you're actually picking up cargo and trying to deliver it to another spot on the map. There's guys that can come and take the cargo. You have to plant it in like checkpoint drop safety boxes essentially. Another one, you're getting these exotic engrams. You have to bring them to certain locations, deposit them. Then you can't suddenly, you have to kill a certain guy to get a doohickey to let you deposit again, all this stuff. So again, they did actually feel different from one to the next, which was nice. But what really makes these activities feel different than your average Destiny 2 activity is invasions. So, in specific contested zones, like contested nodes, on the higher difficulties only, if you're going and doing a bounty hunt, you're trying to complete these objectives, another real person can just invade, somewhat similar to Gambit. However, there's some pretty big differences between this and actual Gambit. If you want to be an invader, there's a special solo queue that you match into, and you can actually wager this Deathmark currency that you earn for playing these activities, and the more you wager, the better your rewards will be, but if you fail your objective, you lose everything. Now, as for your objective, you need to get 6 total points, and that means every kill is 1 point, and when you kill a real guardian, they drop a crest. You can go pick that up, and that's another point. So if you get a full squad wipe and all of their crests, boom, you're done, you're out of there. Honestly, it is incredibly fast, and so if you are a good invader, you can chalk up some crazy rewards. But again, you need to have the right currency to get that. So you can't just invade nonstop 24/7. You're gonna have to go back into the normal activities to farm out that currency. Now, this also means that if you're getting invaded, they wipe your whole squad, they pick up your crests, they're out. That's just 3 revive tokens. And so while this absolutely can end your run, and you can run out of revive tokens and be screwed, especially if you're losing revive tokens like before the invader comes, often if you're a better PvE player, it'll just be an annoying thing that happens, they leave, and you can go on to complete the rest of your activity. You can only be invaded once, to the best of my knowledge. And so overall, it's just kind of an interesting dynamic. You can completely avoid getting invaded, guys. Just don't make in the like contested zones, pick the easier difficulties. As you can see, it'll say which specific difficulties will have invasion turned on, and it's not guaranteed that you will be invaded. And so, are you going to go after these contested zones, risk getting the best rewards, but you might have your activity ended by an invasion? Like, that's kind of the interesting part of these activities. And keep in mind, guys, both the invader and the normal players in the activity have access to all of these crazy renegade abilities that we talked about within the faction segment. And so, hey, you have some incredible PvP player invading you, say Wallabra is invading you, Defizzle is invading you. I'm gonna call down an ATST and we'll see how good your sniper shot is against that. So yeah, that's a whole other dynamic, is that you have like anti-invasion, essentially things you can call in. There's one that's like a recon drone that will expose where the invader is, or if you're invading, it'll expose where the players are. So that's a whole nother dynamic, and it was actually a pretty interesting thing. So that's the activity. Again, a lot going on. That's probably the feature I'm going to spend the most time talking about in this video. And overall, I'm definitely more positive for this than whatever the heck the Edge of Fate had going on, to be honest. Like, honestly, what was it? The Sieve? Like, whatever, dude. So that's all pretty good. Moving on from there, feature number 3. And that is going to be the new Renegades weapons. Guys, the weapons in this expansion are not your average Destiny 2 weapons, and that's because there are some whole new weapon types being added. Specifically, you have blasters. These are way different than any other legendary weapon, any other weapon archetype currently in the game. There's actually 2 different kinds of blasters you can get, 2 different archetypes that a blaster can be. So you have dynamic heat blasters. Now, these can actually hit a perfect reload, and what that means is that you hit the reload. As you can see, you're gonna start reloading. You can see you're venting the weapon, and you have this little bar going down, and if you hit reload again at the perfect time when there's a little notch in this bar, then you actually get a few seconds of drastically reduced heat buildup. And so you can absolutely spam dynamic heat weapons if you are hitting those perfect reloads. And then you have balanced heat weapons. These also have a special perfect reload, but it's right before you're going to overheat the weapon. And you can see me do that right here. I press reload again when it's in the notch and I get a fast reload. If I was to keep shooting until it overheats, you can see it's a much longer reload animation. So these essentially have like a built-in reload perk, a built-in feeding frenzy, or even outlaw that you can activate if you are hitting reload at the right time. But that is just scratching the surface of what these heat weapons, these blasters can do. So on top of having these perfect reload mechanics, they'll also slowly lose heat over time, even when stowed. That's right, guys, they all have a built-in, basically auto-loading holster. Now, it's incredibly inefficient, but it still works if you're using, for example, the big blaster machine gun that's like a legendary sweet business looking thing. Incredible weapon, by the way. But you're just about to overheat with that. Throw it away, switch weapons, use your special, forget about it, finish the encounter, and then later on, you whip out that machine gun. It might be fully cooled down, so you'll never actually have to reload it. But on top of that, on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you want to reload, you've got this. So you can spam reload, you can spam vents as much as possible because you can hit the reload button after any amount of shooting, just like any other gun. But unlike any other gun, you can instantly stop venting and start shooting again whenever you want. Now, why would I ever want to do this? Well, the weapon you're seeing me do this with right now has heal clip. And yes, it works with heal clip. So what that means is I can shoot, I can get a kill, I can click reload, vent for like 0.1 seconds, instantly break the vent, start shooting again, cancel the reload animation, that will still trigger heal clip. And so any sort of perk like heal clip, kill clip, oh my goodness, it synergizes with that capability. So these blaster weapons are extremely good, and I think when people like initially get them, and then later on when people start to realize all of these cool little interactions you can do, they will become meta. And then on top of that, we also have some more innovation. We have a burst fire SMG, you know, as the new competitive PvP weapon. As usual, we have some brand new perks, especially for those blaster weapons. They have unique perks that apply to their, you know, cooldown overheat mechanics. Then for the exotic weapons, I mean, the lightsaber is actually sick. It actually feels like a lightsaber. Honestly, Bungie nailed this. Being able to block and reflect bullets, right? Being able to throw your lightsaber, have it bounce between enemies. Not to mention, it's incredibly customizable, and it's a special weapon, so the ammo economy is so much better. You're gonna be able to use it so much more. Guys, that thing is gonna be meta beyond meta. It is going to be an extremely good weapon, but the other exotics are great as well, guys. And so, like, I just felt that using the weapons, especially using those brand new blasters, really felt different than just getting the millionth 140 RPM hand cannon. You know what I'm saying? So I think that is a pretty important, and I do think a pretty positive feature. But moving on from there, guys, feature number 4, it has got to be the Star Wars tie-in. This has a lot of people talking. There's no escaping it. Renegades is a Star Wars themed expansion. And so some people are really looking forward to this. You know, they're thinking, oh my gosh, I love Star Wars. I can't wait to get the lightsaber in Destiny 2. But I've seen other people say, yeah, this is cringe. Like, I want to be playing Destiny 2. I do not want to be playing Star Wars. And now this just feels like Fortnite-esque crossover slop. How egregious is it? Well, there are certainly a lot of Star Wars references. I mean, in the first mission, minor spoiler, I'm escorting a frozen drifter just like Han Solo in Star Wars, like frozen in carbonite or whatever it's called. The blasters, I mean, they look very similar to a lot of Star Wars blasters. For goodness sakes, like I said, you get the lightsaber. You can call it the Praxic Blade, but we all know it's the lightsaber and it looks pretty much identical. Not to mention the locations. I mean, it says Europa, but it looks like Hoth. It says Mars, but it has a Sarlacc pit. It says Venus, but it looks like Endor, right? But with all that being said, in my personal opinion, it didn't feel too egregious. And I think the main reason for that is that unlike a Fortnite-style crossover, you didn't have the actual Star Wars characters. And so you're never going to encounter actual Han Solo. You won't be saved by Luke Skywalker. And I think that would have been too much. Like if I went up to Princess Leia to get a bounty, that would have been pretty cringe. And I think, again, that would have been too far. But just having everything inspired by Star Wars, so you have the militaristic, Imperial Cabal, well, that's not that out of place with Destiny. The kind of main villain, or one of the main villains, is clearly inspired by Kylo Ren, and yet he's a Dredgen, and the Dredgen play with the darkness, like those dark forces. It makes total sense that they're very Sithy. And to be honest, guys, Destiny, like so many other sci-fi franchises, has been inspired by Star Wars from the start. I mean, for goodness sakes, the Warlock Stormtrance, bro, it's literally Emperor Palpatine's electric tickle fingers. Like, we all know it's inspired by Star Wars, clearly. And so you have all these things, blasters, again, the Imperial Cabal, but it does feel at home in Destiny. The references are very obvious, but if you've never seen Star Wars before, you can probably go in and you're just gonna have an experience like a somewhat normal Destiny expansion, saying that, again, the references are very obvious, but it's not like so egregious that it takes you completely out of the fact that you're still playing Destiny. Again, that's my opinion, and I want to reiterate, I'm glad I'm not, again, picking up bounties from Han Solo. That would have been too far, so I'm glad Bungie didn't go that direction. But moving on from there, guys, feature number 5, thing number 5, we've got to talk about it, the core game experience. And this, I've been pretty positive on all the other features. This is the negative. And the big negative is that aside from one thing, Renegades does not dramatically alter the core game experience. And so, if your beef with Destiny 2 is the portal's still there. Now, with one big kind of exception, and this is the one, I think, core game feature that Renegades does bring to the table, and that's the fact that Bungie has stated that you can play the new Renegades activities. You can do bounty hunts and invasions and all that stuff up to max power level. And so what that means is that unlike the Edge of Fate, where you did the campaign, and then if you wanted to level up, you're just shoved to the portal, and then you gotta do 12 hours of solo ops. I mean, to be honest, Bungie really rebalanced the portal in October, and so that's not really the case anymore because bonus engrams are powerful. That's kind of a different topic, but I think that really made things worse in the Edge of Fate. That all the leveling, like 300, 400 levels, were all done in the portal. Whereas with Renegades, no, like you're gonna be getting powerful loot all the way up to max just doing the new Renegade stuff, and I think that is going to make this expansion feel significantly better. But again, the portal is still very much there, right? When I went to go load into that new activity, I'm still adjusting modifiers if I want to. Of course, you have the match-made version, but the modifier system is still very much there. And the leveling system, it's much, much faster, but it's still very much there. And there's the big question of like, dude, am I going to be getting tier 5s immediately in Renegades? Because remember, your power level is not resetting anymore with Renegades. So if you're already in the 500s, you're probably just going to be getting high tier loot immediately in Renegades. Now, is that the worst thing? I mean, you're kind of rewarded for your effort. You can stroll into Renegades, get the sick tier 5 blasters. You're happy, you have a bunch of fun, and then you just take a break. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, have, you know, a good couple of weeks. I hate when it feels like I'm getting milked for my playtime, and then instead of having 2 really fun weeks, I have 4 mediocre weeks. I'd rather have the 2 really fun weeks, to be honest. But that's still a big question. Like, am I just going to breeze through all the content? So all this core game stuff, unfortunately, Renegades, aside from, again, that one big feature, if you're not max level and you don't want to play the portal, you really don't have to too much with Renegades. But yeah, it's not like Renegades is getting rid of the portal or anything drastic to the core game. And that is a very important thing to consider, especially again if you're someone who's disenfranchised. Like, I'm just being honest, guys, right? Like, it doesn't matter if Bungie brought me out to the capture event, I'm going to give you guys my honest feedback, and there it is. If you're super disenfranchised with the new core game experience because of the Edge of Fate, there is some slight things that alleviate that, but it's still very much a part of the game with Renegades. With that being said, if you're enjoying your time more, especially after that October update, you're leveling up a lot faster, all of that stuff. If you're kind of like, it's not impacting me that much, I'm getting used to it, I think you're honestly gonna like Renegades because all the other stuff is pretty positive. Like, all the other stuff I do think is, like, when I'm looking back at the content being added, there's no crazy gimmick like in the Edge of Fate with the stupid balls that everyone hated. No, you're very much just playing the game normally with cool extra abilities, calling in ATSTs and stuff like that. You have a faction system, you have a cool new activity to play. The weapons legitimately feel very, very different. I'm probably most excited for that, and so all that is great. It's just the portal's still in the game, you know, like, what can you do? Guys, that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.